Namaste, and welcome to another episode of The Essence of Dharma. Today we're going to talk about the two principal philosophies of the ultimate, the absolute. There is only two. In fact, they're the only two philosophies that are possible. And one of them is called monism. The other one is called dualism, and they're both wrong. They're both wrong because they both rest on unreliable assumptions about the world, about the nature of reality, and so on. What are they? Well, first let's look into the philosophy and define them just a little bit. Monism is the belief or the assumption that ultimately it's all one. And dualism is the assumption that ultimately it's all two. In other words, monism thinks that God and man are one. There's only the soul, the absolute Brahman. And that's all there is. And dualism says, no, everything is real. And everything has its own absolute existence. Just that differences are supreme. Whereas monism says that, no, oneness is supreme. And they're both wrong. Why are they wrong? Well, they make a couple of incorrect assumptions. One incorrect assumption is that you can explain everything logically and that rational reasoning is a valid process. And it's not. Why is that? Well, there's another assumption that the world is consistent. And once you figure out how it works, how it's put together, then you got it, right? But no, the world isn't consistent, is it? See, we can't figure everything out by reason because reason breaks down at the edge cases. And it seems like the world is full of edge cases, which are these neither this nor that. Neither oneness nor duality. Neither right nor wrong. Neither black nor white. Neither good nor bad. Isn't it? If we look at our experience now. So philosophy makes the wrong assumption that you can figure everything out. And it makes another wrong assumption that the world is consistent. And all you have to do is guess the pattern and you can know everything. You can figure everything out. Isn't it? All of philosophy, all of science is based on this assumption, and it's wrong. Just look at your experience. In life, things change all the time. Nothing is clear. You go into a situation and you have a certain idea about it, and then it slaps you in the face and says, no, it's not like that. It's something completely different. Happens all the time, doesn't it? So that's why philosophy doesn't work, and that's why religions based on those philosophies don't work either. Okay, so there's an extreme form of monism right now in the West, which sometimes goes under the name of Western Buddhism, and sometimes it goes under the name of New Age. Sometimes it's disguised as yoga or even Christianity, although it's not. It's monism. Everything's all one, and we're all the same. I am you, and you are me. And I am he, and we are all together. Thus spake the walrus. Goo 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 joop. No, that's wrong. Why? Because there are differences. I'm different from you. Huh? You can't guess the color and number that I'm thinking of right now. And I can't know what's in your mind either. So there are differences. Yeah. Sure, there are some similarities. Yeah, that's nice, But really, in this world, differences are important. We have to observe them. There's a difference between my body and this bus which is barreling down the road. And if I don't get my body out of the way of it, it's going to smash it. So we have to observe those differences. At the same time, there is this oneness. And so the Buddhist religion and Advaita religion talk about oneness a lot. Advaita paints it in positive terms, and Buddhism terms it in negative terms. For example, the Advaitans characterize the Absolute as Sat Chit Ananda, unlimited existence, unlimited consciousness, and unlimited bliss. Whereas the Buddha says the opposite. The world is impermanent, unsatisfactory, and non-self. Anicca, dukkha, anatta. So the Vedic religion talks about the Absolute in positive terms, and the Buddhist religion talks about the world in negative terms. They're both saying exactly the same thing. That there are these two things, the world and the Absolute, and they're absolutely opposite. One is Sat Chit Ananda, and the world is Asat, Nishchit, and Nirananda. Okay? So they're just mirror images, like my hands. They both have 5 fingers and 4 fingers and a thumb, but they're mirror images of each other. So Buddhism and Advaita are actually about the same thing. They're just logical inversions, that's all. That's all. And it's wrong. Whatever you can say about the Absolute is wrong. Because whatever you can say is of the mind, name and form. And name and form is not the Absolute. Sorry. And what is not absolute can never be of the same quality as the Absolute. So all philosophy is wrong. It's just whistling Dixie. It's bullshit. So what about dualism? Now that we took apart monism. Oh, just wait. Dualism is the idea or the assumption, the belief that differences are supreme. So although I may come to know God, I can never merge into God. I can never be one with God. I always have some relationship with God. And that's true of everything. So I'm different from you, who's different from this other person, who's, So what happens with these philosophies is that they get expanded and then institutionalized in religions, and then the religions become the basis for political philosophies. And so in today's world, dualism manifests as religious morality, fanaticism, nationalism, and like Victorian conservatism, Puritanism. And monism manifests as globalism, political correctness, this economic one world philosophy, and like that, and ultimately fascism. So both of these philosophies, because they're wrong, when they're implemented as political schemes, cause tremendous suffering, persecution, and pogroms, and so many wars and problems like this. So we can see from the results that these philosophies don't really describe reality. They don't really describe life. Well, what's the truth about life? The truth is that life can only be experienced. It can't be explained. It's not consistent. It's not logical. It can't be figured out. And it certainly can't be expressed in words. But when one realizes that the mind is insufficient to grasp reality, and one loses interest in using the mind to explain reality, well, then you can relax. Then it's okay. And the one piece of information that makes all the difference in the world is to understand that the world is an appearance. It's an illusion. It's not real. Its reality is relative. Relative to what? Relative to your state of consciousness. Everybody experiences every night when you go to sleep, this whole world disappears. The body, the mind, your identity, all those other people, the senses, everything. It's gone. And what happens? Instead, there's another world, the dream world. And in the dream world, you go through a bunch of crazy adventures that don't have to follow any consistent rule at all. So the things that seem consistent about the world are the things that are consistent. Things always fall down and stuff like that. Physical laws. But there's also a bunch of things about the world that are inconsistent. Women, for example. Our own minds. Just observe your mind objectively for a few minutes and you can see it's not at all consistent. So if the world is so inconsistent, why should we dream that there's a way to explain it that's totally consistent and logical and all that? Come on, it's not going to work. It never has worked. It never will work. So just drop the idea. Drop the idea that you can model the world in your mind and figure it all out and get ahead of it. You can't. The only way to master the mind is to lose interest in it. Just ignore it, just drop it, and get interested in consciousness. Because consciousness is senior to the world. It's senior to the mind and existence. And consciousness reveals things as they are, like a mirror, like a light that lights up everything in the morning. Consciousness, and especially consciousness of consciousness, awareness of awareness, is actually the ultimate, actually the supreme, and actually the secret of life. Om Tat Sat. Aum Harihi Aum.